I was sitting in my garden watering the roses when my phone rang. It was my only son, Michael. His voice sounded rushed, almost mechanical, as he said, "Mom, I'm calling to let you know that Lisa and I are moving to California next week. We already sold your rental property and your Mercedes. We needed the investment capital. Gotta go." And he hung up just like that. 32 years raising him, sacrificing everything for him, and he discarded me like an old newspaper. But I took a deep breath and smiled, because there was something my dear son didn't know. My name is Caroline Mitchell. I'm 68 years old, and until that moment, I thought I knew my son. I had become a widow 8 months ago. My husband, Thomas, had passed away from cancer after a long battle. The last morning we spent together, he had held my hand and said, "Take care of yourself, my darling. And remember what I told you about the safe?" Those were his last coherent words before the medication took him to sleep forever. Since then, Michael had been calling more often, or so I believed. He came to visit twice a week. He helped me sort through Thomas's belongings and accompanied me to the lawyer's office. He even insisted I update my will. "Mom, you need to have everything in order now that you're getting older," he'd say with that concerned expression I thought was genuine love. But now I understood it was pure calculation. The rental property had been our first investment. Thomas and I bought it when Michael was just 10 years old, with every penny we could save. It was a small apartment building with 6 units, and the rental income had helped us pay for Michael's private school, his college tuition, and eventually his wedding. Michael knew how much that property meant to me. It was our legacy, our security. And the Mercedes, that silver sedan Thomas had bought for our 40th anniversary, he had saved for 2 years to surprise me with it. The dealer had tied a giant red bow on it, and Thomas had driven it home with tears in his eyes, so proud to give me something luxurious. Michael knew what that car represented. It was the last gift from my husband. When he hung up, I stayed there, in my garden, surrounded by the roses Thomas had planted, holding the hose as water pooled around my feet. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry. Something strange happened inside me, a clarity I hadn't felt since Thomas's death. Because in that moment, I remembered something I had almost forgotten. 2 weeks before he died, Thomas had called me to his bedside and handed me a small brass key. "Caroline, this opens the safe in my office closet. The combination is our anniversary date. Don't open it until you're ready, but when you do, you'll understand everything." I had tucked the key in my jewelry box, and with all the chaos of his final days in the funeral, I had completely forgotten about it. But there it was, waiting for me. The nurse from hospice called that afternoon to check on me, asking if I needed any grief counseling. I told her I was fine, that I was managing well, but my mind was racing. I was thinking about that key, about the coldness in Michael's voice, and how his wife Lisa had probably orchestrated all of this. She had never respected me. She always saw me as outdated, irrelevant, a burden on their ambitious lifestyle. I went inside and walked slowly to Thomas's office. I hadn't been in there much since he died. It still smelled like his cologne and old books. I found the safe behind his winter coats, exactly where he said it would be. My hands trembled as I entered our anniversary date, 06/15/1983. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside was a leather portfolio, thick with documents, and on top was a letter in Thomas's handwriting, dated just 3 weeks before his death. "My dearest Caroline, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I pray you've had time to grieve properly. But now it's time for you to know the truth about our finances. Over the past 30 years, I've been much more than a high school principal. I've been an investor, a businessman, and a strategist. Every spare dollar we had, I invested wisely. The rental property Michael knows about, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We own 17 properties across 3 states. We have commercial real estate, residential buildings, and a shopping plaza. We also have investment portfolios worth more than $8 million. You are a wealthy woman, my love. You always were. but I kept it quiet for a reason. I never told Michael the full extent of our wealth because I wanted to see what kind of man he would become. Would he love us for who we are, or would he only see dollar signs? I'm sorry to say, Caroline, that his recent behavior has answered that question. The rental property he knows about, I put it in a separate trust years ago, anticipating he might try something exactly like this. He can't legally sell it without your explicit consent, which means whatever sale he thinks he completed is void. The Mercedes is in your name alone. He had no legal right to sell it. Everything is documented in this portfolio. Mr. Harrison, our attorney, knows everything. Call him immediately. I'm sorry I had to test our son this way, but I'd rather you know his true character now than discover it when you're truly vulnerable. I love you eternally. Thomas. My hands shook as I read through the documents. Property deeds, stock certificates, bank statements showing accounts I never knew existed. Thomas had been a financial genius, quietly building an empire while living a modest lifestyle as a school principal. There were detailed records of 17 properties, apartment buildings, rental homes, a small office complex, and yes, a shopping plaza with 12 commercial tenants. The monthly income from all these properties was staggering. And there, in red ink, Thomas had circled a note: the Parker Street property, the one Michael knows about, cannot be sold without Caroline's notarized signature witnessed by Mr. Harrison. Any attempted sale is fraudulent. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house, looking at family photos. Michael as a baby, as a little boy on Thomas's shoulders, as a teenager graduating high school. Where did that sweet boy go? When did he become a man who would steal from his own mother? The next morning, my phone rang again. It was Lisa, Michael's wife. Her voice had that fake sweetness she used when she wanted something. Caroline, hi. Just wanted to let you know we deposited your share from the property and car sales into your account. It's $45,000. That should last you quite a while if you're careful with it. My share? I asked calmly. Well, yes. We couldn't just take everything, could we? We gave you 30% of the sales. That's more than fair. Michael and I need the capital for our tech startup in Silicon Valley. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. 30% of my own property. I see. When do you leave? Day after tomorrow. We're so excited. We found this amazing loft in San Francisco. It's $6,000 a month, but it's perfect for our lifestyle. Oh, and Caroline, we won't be coming back for holidays this year. We'll be too busy establishing ourselves. But don't worry, we'll FaceTime you. That's wonderful, dear. Have a safe trip. Oh, Caroline, I knew you'd understand. You've always been so reasonable. Love you. And she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, and for the first time in months, I laughed. The situation was absurd. They had stolen from me, dismissed me, and expected me to be grateful for their scraps. I checked my bank account. Sure enough, $45,000 had been deposited. They probably sold the property for far less than it was worth because they needed quick cash, and they had sold my Mercedes for a fraction of its value. But what they didn't know was that the sale was completely illegal. I called Mr. Harrison, the family attorney who had been at Thomas's funeral. Mrs. Mitchell, I've been waiting for your call. I assume you found Thomas's safe. Yes, I did. Mr. Harrison, is it all true? The properties, accounts, everything? Every word. Your husband was one of the shrewdest investors I've ever known. He lived modestly but built an empire. And Mrs. Mitchell, I need to tell you something. Your son came to see me 3 weeks ago asking about your assets. I told him only what Thomas instructed me to tell him, that you had the rental property and some modest savings. I did not mention the rest. And the property sale? Completely fraudulent. Michael forged your signature on the sale documents. I have copies. We can pursue criminal charges if you wish, or we can handle this more quietly. What do you suggest? I suggest we let them believe the sale was successful. Let them move to California, let them spend the money, and then, when the time is right, we reveal the truth. By then, they'll have learned some valuable lessons about consequences. Mr. Harrison, I like the way you think. That afternoon, I visited my neighbor, Patricia, who had been my friend for 20 years. I needed to talk to someone, and Patricia had always been wise and discreet. Caroline, you look different, not sad like you've been. You look determined. I told her everything: the phone call, Thomas's letter, the hidden fortune, Michael's betrayal. Patricia listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she sat back in her chair and shook her head. Caroline, I'm not surprised about the money. Thomas was always smart. But I am surprised about Michael. Though, now that I think about it, Lisa has been bragging to the neighborhood book club about their big move and their startup. She made it sound like they earned the money themselves. What else has she been saying? That you're set up comfortably in a small way and that they'll check on you from time to time like you're some elderly aunt they barely know. Caroline, she's been painting you as a burden they've generously taken care of. The betrayal cut deeper. It wasn't just stealing, it was rewriting history to make themselves look noble. That night, I made a decision. I would let them go to California. I would let them think they had won, and I would use this time to plan my response carefully. The next day was their departure. I watched from my window as they loaded their car with expensive luggage. Michael was wearing a designer watch I'd never seen before. Lisa had new diamond earrings. They were already spending money they hadn't truly earned. Michael knocked on my door to say goodbye. When I opened it, he actually hugged me. Mom, I'm sorry this all happened so fast, but this opportunity is too good to pass up. I understand, dear. Follow your dreams. You'll be okay, right? The money we gave you should last a while. I'll be fine, Michael. Don't worry about me. Lisa waved from the car, not even bothering to get out. And then they drove away, heading to their new life built on lies and stolen money. As soon as they were gone, I called Mr. Harrison. They've left. What's our next move? Now we wait, Mrs. Mitchell. We let them settle in, start spending money, make commitments they can't back out of. In about 2 months, we'll make our first move. What kind of move? We're going to quietly reverse the property sale. The buyers will get their money back, no questions asked. And then we're going to send Michael some very official letters about his fraudulent activities. The next 2 months were the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a widow living on a fixed income. But secretly, I was a wealthy woman planning a very careful lesson for her son. I started taking better care of myself. I joined a gym, got my hair done professionally, bought new clothes. Patricia noticed immediately. Caroline, you look 10 years younger. I feel younger, Patricia. I feel like I've been released from something. From grief? From obligation? From pretending? From trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Michael called once in the first month. A quick 5-minute conversation about how amazing San Francisco was, how their loft had a view of the bay, how they're meeting investors. That's wonderful, dear. I'm happy for you. How are you managing, Mom? Do you need anything? I'm fine, Michael. Truly fine. He sounded relieved that I wasn't asking for help or complaining about being alone. Mr. Harrison called me regularly with updates. The property sale has been reversed. The buyers were actually relieved. They were having second thoughts anyway. Your Mercedes has been recovered. The dealer who bought it from Michael recognized it and called me when he realized what had happened. And Michael doesn't know? He has no idea. He thinks the $150,000 from the property and the $25,000 from the car are his to spend. He sold my anniversary gift for only $25,000? I am afraid so. He was in a hurry. I drove my Mercedes for the first time since getting it back. It felt like having a piece of Thomas with me again. I could almost hear him laughing at the entire situation. Patricia and I started taking day trips, visiting museums and gardens. One afternoon, we were having lunch at a nice restaurant when she said, "Caroline, I have to ask, what's your end game here? What do you want from Michael?" I want him to understand the difference between real wealth and stolen money. I want him to learn that actions have consequences. And Patricia, I want him to become the man Thomas and I raised him to be, not this stranger who steals from his own mother. Do you think that's possible? I don't know, but I have to try. 2 months after Michael left, Mr. Harrison called with news. "Mrs. Mitchell, your son's startup is failing. They spent most of the money on lifestyle, the expensive loft, fancy dinners, designer clothes, and very little on actual business development. They're running out of funds." "How do you know this?" "I have contacts in San Francisco. Michael has been trying to get investors, but he has no real business plan. It's all flesh and no substance. What happens when the money runs out? That's when things get interesting." 3 months after they left, Lisa called me. Her voice was different, strained, worried. "Caroline, hi. How are you?" "I'm well, Lisa. How's California?" It's challenging. The startup world is very competitive. Listen, Caroline, I wanted to ask, do you have any more assets you could sell? Michael and I are having some cash flow issues, and we thought maybe you had other things you could liquidate." Other things to liquidate? As if I was a store closing down? "I'm sorry, Lisa. I don't have anything else." "Nothing? What about jewelry? Thomas must have given you jewelry." "My jewelry has sentimental value. I won't be selling it." "Caroline, we're family. Family helps family in tough times." The irony was staggering. "Lisa, when you took my property and my car without asking, was that family helping family?" Silence. "That was different. That was an investment in our future." "I see. Well, I don't have anything else to give you." "Fine. I'll tell Michael you refused to help us." She hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, looking at the stars. Thomas used to say that everything happens for a reason, and that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best transformations. "You were right, my love," I said to the sky. "This is all leading somewhere." Mr. Harrison called the next morning. "Mrs. Mitchell, are you ready for the next phase?" "What is it?" "We're going to send Michael a letter from the property management company. The letter will inform him that the sale was fraudulent and has been reversed. It will also mention that legal action is being considered." "Will he know I'm behind it?" "Not yet. For now, he'll think it's just the company protecting their interests." "Do it." The letter was sent on a Wednesday. By Friday afternoon, Michael called me in a panic. Mom, something terrible has happened." "What's wrong, dear?" "The property company sent me a letter saying the sale was fraudulent. They're saying I forged your signature." "Mom, did you sign those papers or not?" "Michael, you called me from a parking lot and told me to sign some documents through an app. I didn't even know what I was signing." Oh, God, Mom. they're talking about legal action. They could press charges. That sounds serious. Can you call them? Can you tell them you approved the sale? Please, Mom, Lisa and I could go to jail. Michael, I don't understand what happened, but I can't lie to protect you if you did something illegal. I didn't mean it for it to be illegal. I just needed the money quickly, and I thought you wouldn't mind. You thought I wouldn't mind you selling my property without permission? Silence. Michael, I have to go. I have an appointment. Mom, wait, please. We need your help. I hung up. Patricia came over that evening. I heard your phone ringing off the hook all afternoon. Michael called 12 times. Are you going to answer? Eventually, but not yet. Right now, he needs to feel what I felt when he abandoned me, helpless and alone. Over the next week, Michael called every day, sometimes multiple times. The messages became increasingly desperate. Mom, please call me back. Mom, we're in serious trouble here. Mom, Lisa's family is threatening to disown her if this turns into a scandal. Mom, I'm begging you. Mr. Harrison advised patience. Let him sweat, Mrs. Mitchell. He needs to understand the gravity of what he did. Finally, after 10 days, I called him. Michael.
Mom, I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, dear. What do you need? Mom, we need you to come to San Francisco. We need you to sign papers saying you approved the sale, that it was all a misunderstanding. Why would I do that? Because we're family. Because I'm your son. Michael, family doesn't steal from family. Sons don't forge their mother's signatures. I didn't think of it as stealing. I thought you'd be happy to help us. By taking everything your father and I built? Mom, please, we'll pay you back. We just need time. Pay me back with what, Michael? Lisa just called me 2 weeks ago begging for more money because your startup is failing. He started crying. My 32-year-old son was crying on the phone. Mom, I've made terrible mistakes. I know that now, but please, don't let them press charges. Please. What do you want me to do? Come to San Francisco. Meet with the lawyers. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. I'll think about it. When will you know? I'll call you in a few days. I hung up before he could respond. Patricia looked at me with concern. Caroline, are you sure about this? He's still your son. That's exactly why I have to do this, Patricia, because he's my son, and I love him too much to let him become a man who steals and lies without consequences. Mr. Harrison prepared the next phase. Mrs. Mitchell, I've drafted an agreement. If Michael wants you to clear him of the fraud charges, he'll have to agree to certain terms. What kind of terms? He'll have to return every penny he took. He'll have to undergo financial counseling. He'll have to write you a formal apology taking full responsibility for his actions. And he'll have to spend 6 months doing community service in San Francisco. That's harsh. It's fair. He committed fraud. He stole from his mother. This is much better than what the courts would give him. I flew to San Francisco 2 weeks later. Michael and Lisa met me at a lawyer's office downtown. They both looked terrible, tired, scared, older somehow. Michael hugged me tightly. Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you. We sat down with Mr. Harrison, who had flown out with me, Michael's local attorney, and a representative from the property company. Mr. Harrison laid out the terms. As he spoke, I watched Michael's face go from hopeful to shocked to angry. This is ridiculous, Lisa burst out. You're treating Michael like a criminal. He committed fraud, Mr. Harrison said calmly. This is me trying to keep him out of jail. Michael put his hand on Lisa's arm. Lisa, stop. He looked at me. Mom, these terms are really harsh. We don't have the money to pay you back right now. Then you'll pay me back over time. You'll get jobs, real jobs, and you'll learn to live within your means. But the community service? 6 months? Your father volunteered at a soup kitchen every Saturday for 30 years, Michael. 6 months of service isn't going to kill you. And the written apology? Words matter, Michael. You need to understand and articulate what you did wrong. His lawyer tried to negotiate better terms, but Mr. Harrison was firm. These are the terms. Take them, or we move forward with criminal charges. Michael signed. Lisa sat next to him fuming, but she couldn't do anything. As we were leaving, Michael stopped me in the hallway. Mom, I really am sorry. I know you probably don't believe me, but I am. Then prove it, Michael. Not with words, but with actions. I flew home that night, exhausted, but satisfied. The first part of my plan was complete. Over the next 3 months, I received monthly payments from Michael. Not large, but consistent. He had gotten a job at a tech company, a regular position, not a startup. Lisa had gotten a job too, working at a real estate office. He sent me his first apology letter. It was generic, clearly written because he had to. Dear Mom, I'm sorry for what I did. It was wrong. I will try to be better. I called him. Michael, that's not good enough. I want a real apology. I want you to tell me specifically what you did wrong and why it hurt me. Mom, I wrote an apology. You wrote words on paper. I want your heart on paper. He hung up, frustrated. But 2 weeks later, another letter came. This one was 4 pages long, handwritten, with crossed-out words and tear stains. Mom, I stole from you, not just money or property, but security. After Dad died, you needed to know you were taken care of, and I destroyed that security for my own selfish dreams. I forged your signature because I knew you'd say no, and you would have been right to say no. My startup idea was half-baked. I was chasing fantasies instead of building something real. I took Dad's gift to you, the Mercedes, and sold it for quick cash like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was his love made tangible, and I treated it like garbage. I left you alone after Dad died. You needed me, and I abandoned you. I called twice in 3 months. I never asked how you were sleeping, if you were eating, if you were okay. I only cared about my life, my dreams, my future. Lisa and I spent the money on stupid things. A fancy apartment we couldn't afford, expensive dinners, designer clothes. We were playing rich instead of building wealth the way you and Dad did, slowly, carefully, with sacrifice. I'm ashamed of the man I became. Dad would be so disappointed in me. I don't know if you can ever forgive me, but I'm trying to become someone worthy of forgiveness. Love, Michael. I cried when I read it. These were real words from my real son, not the stranger who had called me 3 months ago. Patricia came over and found me crying on the porch. Caroline, what's wrong? I showed her the letter. She read it and smiled. This is what you were waiting for, isn't it? This breakthrough. It's a start. Are you going to tell him the truth about the money? Not yet. He needs more time to grow, more time to understand. Michael's community service was at a homeless shelter. In one of our phone calls, he told me about it. Mom, these people have nothing, absolutely nothing, And I was complaining about living in a $6,000 a month loft. One man I met used to be a lawyer, lost everything in a divorce, and made some bad decisions. Now he's living meal to meal. What did you learn from him? That you're never as far from the bottom as you think, and that pride is expensive. Over the next few months, Michael and I talked more than we had in years. Real conversations about life, mistakes, regrets, hopes. He told me about his job, about learning to budget, about realizing that happiness doesn't come from expensive things. Lisa was struggling more than Michael. She hated their smaller apartment, hated working a regular job, hated the whole situation. One day, Michael called me with news. Mom, Lisa and I are separating. Oh, Michael, I'm sorry. Don't be. She never loved me for me. She loved me for what she thought I could give her. When things got hard, she checked out. She's moving back to her parents' house in Texas. How do you feel about it? Honestly, relieved. These past few months have shown me who she really is. I think I married her for the wrong reasons. What were those reasons? She was exciting, ambitious. She made me feel like I was going to conquer the world. But Mom, none of that matters if there's no real love underneath. After 6 months, Michael completed his community service. Mr. Harrison informed me that all the terms of the agreement had been met. What now? I asked. Now you decide how you want to proceed with your relationship with your son. I want to see him. I want to talk to him face to face. Should I tell him about your real financial situation? Not yet. I want to see who he's become first. I invited Michael home for Thanksgiving. He drove up from San Francisco. He'd sold his expensive car and bought a used Honda. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight in a healthy way. He looked tired but peaceful, grown up. He hugged me for a long time. I missed you, Mom. I missed you too, honey.
We spent the weekend together. Michael helped me cook, cleaned the house without being asked me about my life, my health, my friends. He was attentive in a way he hadn't been since he was a teenager. On Sunday morning, he found me in Thomas's office. I was looking at a photo of the three of us from 10 years ago. I miss Dad, he said. Me too. Mom, can I ask you something? How are you managing? I know the $45,000 we gave you couldn't have lasted this long. I'm managing fine, Michael. But how? Do you have other income I don't know about? This was the moment. Come with me. I led him to Thomas's safe, which was still open with all the documents inside. What's this? Your father's legacy. The real one. Michael read Thomas's letter. Then he looked through the property deeds, the bank statements, the investment portfolios. His face went through a range of emotions: confusion, shock, disbelief, understanding, and finally, something like horror. Mom? You've been rich this whole time? Yes. When I called you about selling the property, I already knew I didn't need the money. And when Lisa called begging for more help, I could have solved all your problems with one phone call, but you didn't. No, I didn't. He sat down heavily in Thomas's chair. Why? Because you needed to learn something you couldn't learn with money. You needed to learn the value of honest work, the consequences of your actions, the difference between earning and taking. You let me struggle. I let you grow. I've been paying you back for 6 months. Yes, money you didn't need. It wasn't about the money, Michael. It was about you taking responsibility. He put his head in his hands. I don't know whether to be angry or grateful.
You can be both. Did Dad know? Did he know I'd do something like this? He suspected you might. He wanted to test you before he told you about the real wealth. He wanted to see if you loved us or for what you could get from us. And I failed the test. At first, yes. But Michael, you passed the second test. You took responsibility. You worked hard. You grew. That's what your father really wanted, not for you to never make mistakes, but for you to learn from them. Michael started crying. I'm so sorry, Mom, for everything. I know, honey. I know. We sat together in that office for hours, talking about everything. The betrayal, the lessons, the growth. And finally, we talked about the future. What happens now? Michael asked. Now you get to decide what kind of man you want to be. You can go back to California and keep building your life there, or you can stay here and help me manage these properties. Or you can do something completely different. The choice is yours. What would you like me to do? I'd like you to do whatever makes you genuinely happy. Not what looks impressive, not what makes the most money, what makes you happy. I think I want to come home, not to live with you, but to be near you. I want to learn the business Dad built. I want to understand how he did it. And Mom, I want to spend time with you. Real time, not obligation visits. I'd like that. Michael moved back 2 months later. He got a small apartment downtown and started working with Mr. Harrison to learn about property management and investments. He worked a regular job during the day and studied the business at night. Patricia watched the transformation with amazement. Carolyn, you performed a miracle. I didn't perform a miracle. I just gave him room to grow. Most mothers would have either cut him off completely or rescued him immediately. You did neither. Thomas taught me that the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to become their best self, even if it's painful. 1 year after the original phone call, Michael and I had dinner at the house. He was doing well, genuinely well. He had a good job, a modest apartment, a growing understanding of the family business, and most importantly, peace. Mom, I have something for you, he said after dinner. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $45,000. What's this? It's the money Lisa and I gave you from the sale. The 30% we so generously allowed you to keep from your own property. Michael, you've been paying me back monthly. I know, but this was your money from the start. I'm giving it back, with interest. I don't need it. I know you don't, but I need to give it to you. Please let me do this. I took the check. Thank you, Michael. No, Mom. Thank you. For not giving up on me? For letting me fail? For letting me grow? For being the mother I didn't deserve but desperately needed. That night, after Michael left, I sat on the porch with Patricia. We looked at the stars, drinking wine, and talking about the journey. So, what now, Carolyn? What's the next chapter? Michael and I are going to turn some of the properties into affordable housing. We're going to use Thomas's wealth to help families who are struggling, who need a hand up, not a handout. That's beautiful. Thomas would have loved it. He always said wealth was responsibility, not privilege. And Michael is going to run the program. He's going to learn every aspect of the business while doing something meaningful. And someday, when I'm gone, he'll inherit everything. But this time, he'll be ready for it. Patricia raised her glass. To Thomas, who was smart enough to see this coming. To Michael, who learned his lesson. And to you, Carolyn, who had the wisdom to teach it. We clinked glasses under the stars. 2 years later, Michael met someone new. Her name was Rachel, and she was a social worker who volunteered at the same homeless shelter where Michael had done his community service. She had no idea Michael came from wealth. She liked him for who he was, a kind, hardworking man who cared about helping others. When Michael brought her to meet me, I knew immediately she was different from Lisa. She asked me questions about my life. She helped clear the dishes without being asked. She laughed at my stories. She saw Michael, not his potential inheritance. They got married in our backyard, a small ceremony with close friends. Michael insisted on paying for it himself, even though I offered to help. Mom, I need to do this on my own. Rachel and I are building something real, and it starts with us standing on our own feet. During the reception, Michael gave a speech.
3 years ago, I was the worst version of myself. I was selfish, entitled, and cruel to the person who loved me most. My mom had every right to cut me off forever. Instead, she gave me the greatest gift a parent can give, the opportunity to learn from my mistakes. Dad, wherever you are, I hope I'm finally becoming the man you wanted me to be. And Mom, I love you. Not for your money, not for your property, but for your wisdom, your patience, and your faith that I could become better than I was. I cried through the entire speech. That night, as the party wound down, Michael and Rachel found me on the porch. Mom, we have something to tell you, Michael said, his arm around Rachel. We're pregnant, Rachel said, smiling. My heart filled with joy. A grandchild, a new beginning for our family. That's wonderful news. When are you due? 6 months, Rachel said. We wanted to wait until the first trimester was over before telling anyone. Michael looked at me with those eyes I remembered from his childhood. Mom, I want my child to know you, really know you. Not as some distant grandmother they see on holidays, but as a real part of their life. And I want to teach them the lessons you taught me. What lessons are those? That wealth isn't about money, it's about character. That love isn't something you buy, and that the greatest gift parents can give their children is roots and wings, a foundation, and the freedom to become themselves. Rachel squeezed his hand. Michael told me everything, about what he did, about how you responded, about the journey he's been on. Mrs. Mitchell, I just want you to know that I see the man he is now, and I'm so grateful he had a mother who loved him enough to let him fall and learn to stand back up. Over the next few months, I watched Michael prepare for fatherhood with a seriousness I'd never seen in him before. He read parenting books, he took classes with Rachel, he asked me questions about raising children. Mom, were you ever scared when you were raising me? Every day, Michael. Every single day. What scared you most? That I wouldn't be enough, that I'd make mistakes that would damage you forever. Did you make mistakes? Constantly. But your father and I loved you through them. And when you made mistakes, we tried to love you through those too. Even when you stole from me, even then, especially then. Patricia came over one afternoon while Michael was visiting. We were all having tea in the garden when she said, Michael, can I ask you something? Of course, Mrs. Patterson. Was there a moment when everything changed, when you really understood what your mother was trying to teach you? Michael thought for a long time. It was during my community service. There was this man at the shelter, probably 55 years old, used to be a successful contractor. He told me his story, how he'd made good money, spent it all on impressing people, borrowed more to keep up appearances, and when his business hit a rough patch, everything collapsed. He lost his house, his marriage, his relationship with his kids, everything. And I realized I was looking at my future. If Mom had bailed me out, if she'd let me continue thinking money was something I could just take without earning, I would have ended up exactly like that man. Maybe not homeless, but empty, broken, disconnected from everything real. What did you tell him? I asked. I told him my story. And you know what he said? He said, "Your mama loved you enough to let you hit bottom before you hit rock bottom. That's rare. Most parents catch their kids before they learn anything." The baby arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, a little girl they named Lily Caroline. When Michael called to tell me, his voice was thick with emotion. "Mom, she's perfect. And Mom, I understand now. I understand everything you felt when I was born, every sacrifice you made, every fear you had. I'm holding this tiny person and I'd do anything for her. Anything. And I finally get it. That's how you felt about me, even when I didn't deserve it." When I went to the hospital to meet Lily, I found Michael sitting in the chair next to Rachel's bed, holding his daughter and crying. "Mom, I'm so sorry. For every moment I took you for granted. For every time I made you feel like you didn't matter. For that phone call. For all of it." I sat next to him and looked at my granddaughter's face. She had Thomas's nose and Michael's eyes. "Michael, you've apologized enough. You've grown. You've changed. You've become the man I always knew you could be. That's all I ever wanted. I want to be the kind of father Dad was, the kind of parent you both were. Then love her unconditionally, but don't shield her from consequences. Teach her the value of earning, not taking, and when she makes mistakes, because she will, love her through them." Lily became the center of our lives. Michael and Rachel made good on their promise to include me. I babysat twice a week. We had family dinners every Sunday. Michael told Lily stories about her grandfather Thomas, keeping his memory alive. One Sunday afternoon, when Lily was about 6 months old, Michael found me looking at Thomas's photo in the office. "You still miss him?" "Every day, but I also feel him everywhere. In this house, in you, now in Lily. Love doesn't end, Michael. It transforms." "Mom, I need to tell you something. Rachel and I have been talking, and we want to buy a house, a real house where Lily can grow up. But we want to do it the right way, the way you and Dad did it. Saving, planning, earning it ourselves." "That's admirable, honey. But I also know I'll inherit the properties someday. And Mom, I don't want them." I looked at him, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want you to donate most of it. To charity, to affordable housing programs, to scholarships. Keep enough for your security and maybe a college fund for Lily, but give the rest away. I don't want to be rich because my parents were. I want to build my own wealth, the way Dad did, slowly, carefully, through hard work." "Are you sure?" "Completely sure. The greatest inheritance you can give me is the values you've already taught me. That's worth more than any property." I thought about this for several days. Then I called Mr. Harrison. "Mr. Harrison, I want to establish a foundation, the Thomas Mitchell Foundation for Second Chances. It will provide affordable housing, financial education, and support for people who are trying to rebuild their lives after making mistakes." "That's a beautiful legacy, Mrs. Mitchell. And who will run this foundation?" "Michael will. Not now, but eventually. It will be his inheritance. Not money, but purpose." When I told Michael about the foundation, he cried, "Dad would love this." "I know. He always said money was just a tool. What matters is what you build with it." Over the next year, we established the foundation. Michael worked with Mr. Harrison to set it up properly. We created programs for financial literacy, job training, and transitional housing. We funded scholarships for students whose parents couldn't afford college. Patricia watched all of this with amazement. "Caroline, you took something terrible, Michael's betrayal, and turned it into something beautiful." Thomas always said that's what grace is, taking the broken pieces and making something new. One evening, Michael came over for dinner with Rachel and Lily. After we ate, he asked if we could talk in Thomas's office. "Mom, I've been thinking about that phone call. The one from 3 years ago, when I told you I sold your property. Michael, we don't need to revisit that. Yes, we do, because I realized something. You answered that call sitting in your garden, right? Watering your roses? Yes. And you didn't cry. You told me you didn't cry. No, I didn't. Why not? Most mothers would have broken down. Because in that moment, I remembered your father's words about the safe, and I realized that he had prepared for this. He knew you might make this choice, and he had given me the tools to handle it. I wasn't alone, Michael. I had Thomas's wisdom guiding me even after his death. Do you think he knew? That I'd come back? That I'd change? I think he hoped. Hope is what parents do. We hope our children will become the best versions of themselves even when they're being the worst versions. Michael pulled out a letter from his pocket. He said, I found this in Dad's desk at the school. They were cleaning out old files and found it in his office. It's addressed to me, dated 2 months before he died. He handed it to me. He said, you want me to read it first. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. Thomas's handwriting filled the page. My dear son, Michael, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope I was able to say goodbye properly. But there are some things I need you to understand.
I know about the debts you've hidden from us. I know about the expensive lifestyle you're trying to maintain. I know you're planning to ask your mother for money soon. I'm not angry, son. I'm concerned. You're chasing something that doesn't exist. The idea that money equals success, that appearance equals value. I've built significant wealth over my lifetime, but I've never told you because I needed to know who you'd become without it. Would you be a man of character or a man of convenience? By the time you read this, you'll have made some choices. I don't know what those choices will be, but I know your mother, and I know she'll handle whatever comes with grace and wisdom. If you've hurt her, I hope you find the courage to make it right, not with apologies, but with change. Real, lasting change. You have the capacity to be an extraordinary man, Michael. You're smart, capable, and when you let yourself, you're kind. But you've been hiding behind excuses and taking shortcuts. Stop hiding. Stop taking shortcuts. Do the hard work of becoming someone you're proud of. I love you unconditionally, but love doesn't mean shielding you from consequences. Sometimes the greatest love is stepping back and letting you learn. Take care of your mother. She's stronger than she looks, but she shouldn't have to be strong alone. Be the man I raised you to be. With eternal love, Dad. I finished reading with tears streaming down my face. He knew. He knew everything. He set this whole thing up, didn't he? The test, the safe, the secret fortune. He orchestrated it all. Your father was a wise man. And you followed his plan perfectly. I followed my heart, Michael, which happened to align with his plan. Michael took the letter back and held it carefully. I'm going to frame this. And someday, when Lily is old enough to understand, I'm going to tell her the whole story about the mistakes I made and the second chance I was given. Why? Because every generation needs to learn these lessons. And maybe if she hears about my failures, she'll make better choices. Or maybe she'll make different mistakes, and you'll have to love her through them. I hope I have your strength if that day comes. You will, because you've learned the most important lesson, that love is not about control. It's about trust and patience and believing in someone even when they can't believe in themselves. That night, after Michael left, I sat in the garden where this whole journey had begun. The roses Thomas planted were blooming, filling the air with fragrance. I thought about that phone call 3 years ago, about the woman I was then and the woman I'd become. I had been tested in ways I never imagined. I'd had to make impossible choices to let my son struggle or rescue him immediately, to reveal my resources or keep them hidden, to seek revenge or pursue restoration. And through it all, Thomas's wisdom had guided me. Not the fortune he left, but the values he'd instilled. Patricia came through the garden gate with a bottle of wine. I saw you out here and thought you might want company. Always. We sat together in the twilight, and she said, "So it's really over. The whole saga. This chapter is over. But Caroline, there will always be new chapters. That's what family is. An ongoing story with plot twists and character development." Wise words. I learned from the best. Thomas? Yes, and Michael, surprisingly. Watching him grow taught me things about myself, about forgiveness, about patience, about the long game of love. Do you regret anything? How you handled it? I thought about this carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that Michael had to go through so much pain, but I don't regret my choices. They were made with love, even when they looked harsh. You saved him, Caroline. No, I gave him the opportunity to save himself. There's a difference. 2 years later, I was diagnosed with cancer, aggressive, fast-moving. The doctors gave me 6 months, maybe a year. Michael was devastated, but he handled it with a strength I'd only seen glimpses of before. He arranged my care, managed my medications, and spent hours researching treatments. But more than that, he was present, really present, in a way he'd never been before. "Mom, I'm not leaving your side." "Michael, you have a family, a job, responsibilities." "You're my responsibility, and this time I'm not going to fail you." He moved Rachel and Lily into my house so he could care for me. Rachel was incredible. She'd become the daughter I never had, helping with everything without complaint. Little Lily, now 2 years old, would climb into bed with me and pat my hand. "Gamma sick?" "Yes, sweetheart. Grandma's sick." "I make you better." And she'd kiss my forehead with such earnest love that I'd cry. One afternoon, when Michael was helping me to the garden, I said, "You know, this isn't how I imagined my final chapter." "What did you imagine?" "Slowly fading away in my sleep, peaceful and quick. Not this drawn-out goodbye. I'm grateful for it. For me dying slowly? Because of the time we have. Mom, 3 years ago, if you had gotten sick, I would have sent flowers and visited once a week out of obligation. Now I get to actually be here. I get to take care of you the way you took care of me. I get to say everything I need to say." "You've already said it, honey." Not all of it. Not nearly all of it. Patricia came every day, sitting with me, telling me neighborhood gossip, reading to me when I was too tired to hold a book. Mr. Harrison came weekly to update me on the foundation and to make sure all my affairs were in order. "Mrs. Mitchell, the foundation is thriving. Michael is going to be an excellent director when the time comes." "Is he ready?" "More than ready. You raised a good man. It took some time, but you got there." As the months passed, I got weaker. The pain was managed, but constant. But I wasn't afraid. Thomas was waiting for me somewhere, and I was ready to see him again. One evening, when it was just Michael and me, he said, "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" I'm grateful for everything, for raising me, for loving me, for teaching me, and especially for that phone call. The one where you stole from me? Yes, because it was the catalyst for everything. If I hadn't hit that bottom, I'd still be the same selfish person I was. I'd have missed the best years of my life, being a real husband to Rachel, a real father to Lily, a real son to you. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I'd spend my whole life chasing empty things. You saved me from that, Mom. You and Dad together. You saved me. All we did was love you. No, you loved me the right way, the hard way, the way that actually changes people. I squeezed his hand weakly. Promise me something. Anything. When Lily grows up and makes mistakes, and she will, love her the way we loved you. Don't shield her from consequences, but don't abandon her either. Walk beside her through the hard lessons. I promise, Mom. I promise. I passed away 3 weeks later on a quiet Sunday morning with Michael holding one hand and Rachel holding the other. Lily was asleep in his father's lap. It was peaceful, surrounded by love. At the funeral, Michael gave the eulogy. His voice was strong despite his tears. My mother was the wisest person I've ever known. Not because she was educated, though she was. Not because she was wealthy, though she was. But because she understood something most people never learn, that real love sometimes looks like letting go. 3 years ago, I betrayed her in the worst possible way. I stole from her, abandoned her, treated her like she was nothing. And she had every right to cut me out of her life forever. Instead, she gave me a gift. She let me fail. She let me struggle. She let me learn. And through that process, I became someone I'm actually proud of. My father set up a test for me, but my mother administered it with perfect precision. She balanced tough love with unconditional support. She knew when to step back and when to step in. She turned my biggest mistake into my greatest lesson. Mom, wherever you are now, probably with Dad, probably telling him about how his plan worked, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for loving me enough to let me grow up, even when it was 20 years too late. And to everyone here, if you have children, if you have people you love, remember my mother's example. Real love isn't about making life easy. It's about making people strong. After the funeral, Patricia pulled Michael aside. Your mother wanted you to have this. She handed him a letter. Michael opened it later that night, alone in Thomas's office, now his office. My dearest Michael, if you're reading this, I'm with your father again, and I couldn't be happier. But I wanted to leave you with some final thoughts. You asked me once why I didn't cry when you called me that day from the garden. The truth is, I did cry. But later, when I was alone, I cried for the son I thought I'd lost. But then I remembered something your father always said. People aren't lost until they stop trying to find their way back. You found your way back, honey, and you did it yourself. I gave you the map, but you walked the path. The foundation, the properties, the wealth, it's all yours now to steward. Use it wisely. Use it to help others the way you were helped. Give people second chances. Believe in them, even when they can't believe in themselves. Raise Lily with love and wisdom. Tell her about us. Tell her about the mistakes you made and the lessons you learned. Let our story be part of her story. And Michael, forgive yourself completely. You've spent 3 years proving you've changed. I seen it. Your father would have seen it too. Now you need to see it. You are the man we always believed you could be. Be proud of that. I love you eternally. Mom. P.S. In the bottom drawer of the desk, there's one more envelope from your father. He asked me to give it to you when you were ready. You're ready now. Michael opened the bottom drawer with trembling hands. Inside was a final envelope from Thomas, dated just days before his death. Michael, if your mother gave you this letter, it means 2 things. She's gone, and you've become the man I always knew you could be. I'm proud of you, son. Not for being perfect, no one is, but for having the courage to change. The foundation your mother created is your real inheritance. Not money, but purpose. Run it well. Help others the way you were helped. Give people second chances. Believe in them even when they can't believe in themselves. Raise Lily with love and wisdom. Tell her about us. Tell her about the mistakes you made and the lessons you learned. Let our story be part of her story. And Michael, forgive yourself. Completely. You've spent 3 years proving you've changed. I've seen it. Your father would have seen it. Now you need to see it. You are the man we always believed you could be. Be proud of that. I love you eternally. Dad. Michael sat in that office for hours, crying, healing, understanding. His parents had orchestrated the perfect lesson in love, one that required 3 years, countless tears, and the kind of faith most people never have. 5 years after his mother's death, Michael stood in front of a crowd at the Thomas Mitchell Foundation for Second Chance's annual gala. Next to him was a young man named David, 24 years old, who had stolen from his family to fund a gambling addiction and was now 18 months sober, working full-time and rebuilding those relationships. David's story is my story, Michael told the crowd. We both made terrible choices. We both hurt the people we loved most. But we both got something incredibly rare. We got a second chance. My mother gave me mine through wisdom and patience. This foundation gives second chances to people like David every day. And tonight, I'm asking you to invest in second chances. Not because people like David and I deserve them, but because transformation is possible. Growth is possible. Change is possible. But only if someone believes in you enough to let you fail and then helps you stand back up. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for believing in second chances. And Mom, Dad, wherever you are now, thank you for believing in me. The crowd stood and applauded. Rachel squeezed his hand. Lily, now 7 years old, looked up at his father with pride. As they left the gala that night, Lily asked, Daddy, were you really bad like that man David? Yes, sweetheart, I was. But Grandma and Grandpa helped you? They did. They loved me enough to let me learn. Will you love me like that if I make mistakes? He picked her up, looking into eyes that reminded him of his mother. Always, Lily. I will always love you enough to let you learn, but I'll never let you fall so far you can't get back up. Good, she said, resting her head on his shoulder, because I'm probably going to make mistakes. Everyone does. You're absolutely right. Everyone does. The question is what we do after. That night, he updated his journal, a practice he'd started 3 years ago during his community service. He wrote, Today, I told my story to a room full of people. 10 years ago, I would have been ashamed. 5 years ago, I would have been hesitant. But today, I was proud. Not proud of my mistakes, but proud of my growth. Mom, Dad, you taught me that our worst moments can become our greatest testimonies if we're willing to learn from them. You taught me that love isn't permissive or punishing, it's purposeful. I miss you both every day, but I feel you in everything I do, in every second chance the foundation gives, in every conversation with Lily about values and character, in every moment I choose growth over comfort. You didn't leave me money. You left me something better. A roadmap for living well, loving deeply, and giving others the same grace I received. Thank you. Forever. Thank you. He closed the journal and looked at the photo on his desk. His mother and father on their 40th anniversary, standing next to the Mercedes, smiling at each other with a love that had transcended death and transformed a son who thought he'd lost everything but had actually found himself. Justice had arrived not as revenge, but as redemption, not as punishment, but as purpose. And in the end, Michael understood what his parents had always known. The greatest inheritance isn't what you leave your children, but who you help them become.
Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like this story, you can support me by sending the super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.